Another week gone by, and here we are with the week that was. This week we have a packed schedule as usual, a packed week, and on this we have mayhem of accidents continuing. We have the Panchayat elections at our doorstep. We have the travails of the IIT, which is proposed to be located at Sangay. Then some nagging connectivity issues and a Goan in Australian Parliament. To discuss these and other headlines, I have with me the group editor of Herald publication, Mr. Sujay Gupta.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the first story that we take up is a theme that we had dealt with in the last week, and this week too this mayhem of accidents is continuing. In the first story we have an elderly couple which met death on the road, and that story is back from the first death anniversary of their granddaughter. The Carmona couple die in another road accident, and in this case the couple Joachim Rodriguez and Lena Albertina were the unfortunate victims, and in this case the driver slept off.
Again, it's extremely sad and unfortunate that this spate of accidents are happening in Goa, but one needs to look at a certain pattern which emerges. See, the thing is, these accidents are a combination of 2 or 3 factors. One could be, of course, reckless driving. One could be drunken driving. It could even be things like road engineering not being proper. But I think what's very important to notice here is that I think responsibility lies with the people. And, when you have a taxi service, the taxi driver or the taxi owner has to ensure that these taxi drivers are fresh and ready to kind of drive with full vigor and energy.
Yeah.
In this particular case, we saw that this taxi driver was actually working in some restaurant or somewhere else. He was doing a double shift. He came out of his restaurant and he was just given the car when he worked the whole night. Now, when you work the whole night and at about 3 in the morning you asked to become a driver from a cook or whatever. Now, this is bound to happen.
Yeah.
So, the issue here is that we do not have a regulated mobility plan, whether it be taxis, whether it be meters, whether it be app-based taxis or rules and regulations for taxi drivers. In this particular case, it's a very clear case of neglect, because if you're giving a car to a half-sleepy man, then you're inviting death. And that's exactly what happened.
Now, in the second story, which is pertaining to accidents itself, and this happened on 4th August, and it is appearing in the Herald dated August 5th.
Right.
There are another spate of accidents. Actually, it is more than 3, because here in this particular news item there are 3 accidents.
Correct.
2 drivers suffer injuries.
Correct.
In one, and a cow is mowed down in another.
Yes.
Now, in the first case, in this accident, again the driver dozed off in Ponda and he was working on a late night shift. He rammed the car into a wall. Then there is another where another 2 accidents happening in Malpe Pedne,
Right.
where a cow has been killed and an ox was injured.
Mm-hmm.
And then a truck goes off the road and turns turtle at Malpe Pedne on the national highway.
Yet again, I think this is a pattern, as I mentioned in my response to the earlier story. The issue here is this, that you cannot blame the police and you cannot blame the roads. And I think it's extremely important to look at ourselves and introspect. And I think we have all become very irresponsible commuters and irresponsible drivers. And what happens here is that the roads are public spaces and they belong to all of us. The issue is, if we see the roads as I and not we, these kind of accidents happen. These are all shared spaces that we have, and people have equal responsibility to fellow commuters as they do to their own lives. And as long as that doesn't happen, these kind of accidents will go on. You can have any rules, any regulations, but unless people are responsible themselves, we will go on seeing these kind of accidents.
Now, we are shooting this the week that was from 3rd August to 9th August.
Yes.
And in this we have, so we are shooting on the 9th of August.
Yes.
And we are just one day away from the Panchayat election.
The polling is tomorrow, yes.
Yeah, the polling is tomorrow. And in the Herald Inside, there is an article which calls on voters to exercise their vote. So the headline reads, in the Panchayat election, vote for your village, not for your MLA.
Yes, that's a piece that we worked on, primarily because the Panchayat elections, they were always envisaged as a seat. Panchayats were always seen as a seat of local self-governance, where people's local will is emphasized. And these elections always give an opportunity for the people to decide on the destiny of their villages and their surrounding areas. Though the panchayat elections are not held on party lines,
Yeah.
and I keep on repeating this phrase, the panchayats have become anytime vote banks for politicians.
Yeah.
And they are no longer seen as a stepping stone towards a proper governance in the grassroots. They are essentially seen as an election where the local MLA or the local powerful politician gets some panchayats, some sarpanchas to carry out his or her political activity.
Yeah.
Now, if that becomes the motive, then the real reasons for which the Panchayati Raj system was envisaged under the 73rd Amendment or even the 74th Amendment when it comes to municipal and urban bodies.
Yeah.
So the entire objective and the spirit of the 73rd and 74th Amendment is being nullified even as we speak. Even if elections are held tomorrow, there is a great doubt whether the elections are going to be held in the spirit of the 73rd and 74th Amendment. And that is where the shocker is.
Now, there is just a major paradox in Goa, which I presume is known to many people. That is, the government of Goa has not given a single power to the panchayats out of the 29 which are envisaged under the 73rd Amendment.
Yes, we discovered this during our conversations and research.
Yeah.
So apparently, Goa is probably the only state which has not devolved the 29 powers that every panchayat should have. In fact, what is shocking is that Pondicherry and Bihar were the two other states which were along with Goa as the three states which had not implemented this a few months ago.
Yeah.
But what has now happened is Pondicherry and Bihar have corrected it.
Yeah.
And they've devolved powers and Goa has not.
Yeah.
Even in terms of spending, if you see Kerala, in Kerala 40% of the state budget is immediately sent to the panchayats.
Yeah.
And they spend that 40%.
Yeah.
Panchayat bodies are totally empowered. They don't have to depend on any politician or an MLA.
Yeah.
In Goa, even that is not happening.
Yeah.
So, surely, Goa should no longer be on this whole bottom rung of states and face this whole ignominy of being the only state which is not devolved past to its panchayat. I think it's absolutely shameful.
Okay. So, moving on to our third story of this week. The story reads, when the voice of welfare rings in Parliament, Seafarers salute. And this story is about the MP Luisino Falero raising this issue of the seafarers, and the seafarers in fact were receiving just ex gratia pension of 200 rupees, and that scheme was closed by giving them a lump sum of 1,200 rupees. So presently post retirement there is no pension, and Luisino Falero has in Parliament talked about the contribution of seafarers to the Goan economy, which was once upon a time just money order economy.
Yes, I mean the contribution of seafarers cannot be, the less. Whatever you say does not match up to the contribution that the seafarers have made.
Yeah.
Now, this pension scheme was indeed very good. we understand that this rupees 200 which is given is a very, very paltry sum.
Yeah.
You cannot have a pension of 200, but that is this 200 is the amount that the state government had decided, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now there is another organization called NUSI, which is the National Seafarers Union. Now the point here is that, as you rightly said, that there is absolutely no pensions being given to the seafarers as we speak right now.
Yeah.
And of course the other view is that why should you need to pay pension to them, because they were all working in private services. But you cannot ignore the fact that they left Goa because there were less opportunities in Goa.
Yeah.
And this huge workforce, especially from South Goa, but there could be people from North Goa as well.
Yeah.
Almost every other house has a seafarer or a boy out at sea. They have been consistently sending their money and salaries back.
Yeah.
They are the ones who their hard work actually pays for the upkeep of so many families here.
Yeah.
So you cannot kind of deny their contribution. They are doing what in the sense that state has kind of failed to have an ecosystem of proper employment and opportunities.
Yeah.
So when these people retire, at least as a measure of gratitude to their service, I think the pension scheme should indeed be there, because if you could not do anything for them while they were in service, the least that the government can do is to help them in the time of need.
And the money which they send is also a source of foreign exchange for the state exchange.
that apart, yes, foreign exchange indeed, that helps. Plus, also it helps the Goan economy, because if there's more money in the hands of the relatives, or their families and others, they will ultimately end up spending. So there's more money into the Goan system.
Yeah. So in the fourth story, that is on 4th of August, we see this headline in the Herald on page 2: slapped with criminal notices, farmers stage peaceful protest. Now in this story, this is the struggle which the IIT is facing to find a locus in Goa. And in this story, we see that 9 farmers have been issued notices by the deputy collector, and 3 of them have already been served these notices. And in order to protest this, because this IIT is proposed on the farming lands, the farmers, in order to protest this, they staged a silent protest, and the slapping of the notices is seen by the farmers as an attempt to silence them.
Well, the issue here is that this has been an ongoing issue, and it's a face-off between some farmers and the government. The larger issue of whether IIT should happen or not, that issue is settled. We need an IIT.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the whole question is, do you need an IIT which has to be built only on the farms of farmers? Do you need an IIT only to crush farmers or take away their lands? If you cannot have a system where you can see that the people who are cultivating the land are protected, then that begs the question: at what cost?
So moving on to our 5th story. On August 5th, the Herald has a headline: Grassroot fighters against double tracking to knock on highest court for justice. Now this is a story where the High Court has dismissed the plea of petitioners, wherein the petitioners had sought that the railway, which is implementing this double tracking, they have to take permission from the local bodies with regard to double tracking from Vasco to Kule.
See, this local organization called GBE, which went to court, and there were some villagers from Girdoli and Shandor who were also there. Now, these people have been consistently facing this whole problem of the Southwestern Railway officials coming into the villages and doing the work towards facilitating the double tracking project. For instance, they come to a village, they either put some stones and pebbles in one place, or in some areas they cordon off a particular land, or in ROC there is this beautiful chapel of ROC and the railway line just runs through it. And the thing is, recently they did some work and dumped some mud outside, which literally blocked the entrance of the chapel. Okay. Now, these things have been happening in many villages, in Girdoli, in Shandor, in ROC, in Majorda, in Utorda. It's been happening in many places. Yeah. All that these people are saying is, look, their point being that before you come into the village and do this, don't come arbitrarily and do it, because all villages are good, close-knit communities. You come, speak to the panchayat, say, look, we've got all the permissions. The Southwestern Railway say, look, if we go and talk to them, they'll never allow us anyway. Yeah. So this conflict situation needs to be resolved. Yeah. But what is important here is that this whole tendency to bypass the panchayat or the Gram Sabha and bulldoze that completely, that should not happen. Because you see, even when the matter was in the Supreme Court also, the Supreme Court also in its wisdom has spoken out against the double tracking projects passing through the Mole forests. Yeah. Okay. So the point is, the matter is still not finally decided. There is a discourse happening on whether the double tracking is at all worthy or not. Yeah. Now, if the double tracking has been stopped in that corridor through the Mole forests, then that begs the question as to whether, if you do not have double tracking in that particular stretch, do you need double tracking in the coastal belt? Yeah. Now that fundamental question is something that nobody is addressing. Yeah. They are going ahead as if they have a carte blanche to carry out double tracking in the South Goa coastal belt. Yeah. Technically nothing stops them, purely on paper. But one has to look at it practically also. Yeah. So now for the High Court to say that yes, so I would say that the High Court, with all due respect to the judiciary, has looked into the letter of the issue and not looked into the spirit of it. So I think what is important is, yes, let them approach the Supreme Court and see what comes out of it. But for the moment, I would say it's a big blow to the NGOs and people. Yeah.
Okay. On August 5th itself, there is a 6th story. Goan origin MP Zanetta Mascarenhas delivers her first speech in Australian Parliament. Now, this news, which is sent in by Frankie Fernandez from Melbourne,
Yes.
has the story about this Swan MP Zanetta Mascarenhas,
Yes.
who has talked about her vision about multicultural Australia, and then she has gone on to make sure that everybody knows about her origins, and she has made a very nice statement. I stand here as a child of Goan Indian parents, a Kalgurli girl, a Swan local, a mum, a lady with an unusual first name and a long surname, a climate change specialist, an engineer, Mascarenhas said, and she was wearing a red sari in Parliament.
It's so beautifully put, and there's nothing left to say after this. What do you say? She's said it all, and I think it's a matter of great pride. And her parents were both born in Goa, by the way.
Yeah.
And then they migrated to East Africa, and that is a journey that many Goans take. That from East Africa, there are so many people who've gone to the UK. They've gone to the US, they have gone to Australia and Canada, and so on and so forth. And it's a typical story of a hard-working migrant family who go everywhere and put their footprints. But what I was very touched is that she saluted and took cognizance of her local Goan roots as well as her Indian roots, both. In the sense that she spoke about Goa, the place where she comes from, and India, the country of her parents.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that she took both these names and said that these roots will always stay with me, while I'm also a proud Australian.
Yeah.
And I'm serving it. So I think her words and her attire she chose on the day when she gave her first speech, a sari, speaks volumes of how she has managed to kind of balance both worlds so beautifully.
Yeah.
And I think we should all be proud of her.
Okay, now our story number 7 on August 6, we go back to a story which we had done the previous week, and this is with regard to connectivity.
Yes.
Now in this, we have two stories in this week. One is about Morpilla in Kepe, where the title is "In Morpilla, everyone's busy trying to catch the network."
Yes.
Here students and job seekers find it extremely difficult to get the network. And the next story is on August 7th, where we talk about the connectivity issues in Sattari Taluka. So the title is Chirka 1990. Sattari's connectivity is stuck in that time. And in this story, there is a very visual representation where Dasharat Mandrekar, who lives in Valpoi's Dhavem village, and he says that in order to get connectivity, he has to take his motorbike, he has to drive
4 kilometers.
About 4 kilometers, and then he has to check his phone whether there is any connectivity on his phone.
See, the irony is that when the government is claiming or wanting to ensure that there's fiber connectivity in every village and there's internet connectivity in every home, these kind of claims appear to be a little far-fetched, taking into account the current situation here.
Yeah.
And in villages after villages in Goa, whether you talk of Morpilla, you talk of villages in Sattari, in Perne, in all these places, you'll have very remote village where connectivity is an issue.
Yeah.
If you look at even the area around the Mopa airport, there are so many villages there that are completely cut off from connectivity. And the irony is that you are within a few kilometers of an international airport, which is connecting you to the rest of the world, and the residents there cannot even connect to the people in the next village. That is the whole irony. And I think this is something that one needs to be completely aware of. And there is no excuse for not ensuring that there is connectivity. Now, the state network, which is BSNL, seems to have completely collapsed. And the only way these areas can be connected is through BSNL, because we've seen that when BSNL used to work, BSNL used to be a very good connectivity mechanism, because even if you did not have internet, you at least had your phones. Okay. Now the BSNL is dying I will not even say a natural death, a man-made death. Okay. Other big companies have come in and they have taken over the entire telecommunication ecosystem. But whatever be the case, the disconnect between the haves and have-nots in terms of connectivity is huge, and that gap is also growing a lot. And people in towns like Margao and Panjim and Vasco and Mapsa, they don't understand the depths to which this problem is there. Because there are children who need to actually walk for miles to get 1 bar on their phones so that they can do their online lessons or even their homework. There are job seekers. In Morpilla we've seen that suppose you give an interview and you're waiting for your call letter, or you're waiting for the call to tell you that you've been selected. No, if your phone system doesn't work and you're not there to take that call or receive that call, that job might go to somebody else.
Yeah.
So what I'm essentially saying is that it affects people on a day-to-day basis.
Now, and the irony is that the internet and these kinds of technologies were supposed to be the great equalizer.
Absolutely. And the issue that and you go slightly off the highway and you see this damage happening. You go even 4 kilometers of the highway, 5 kilometers of the highway in talukas like Kepe and other places. You see this happening. In Sangye and Kepe, you just move out of the highway, you are disconnected immediately.
August 7th, moving on to our 8th story, it's really a heart-wrenching story, and the headline says it. A woman kills her 14-month-old daughter at Chikali residence, then attempts suicide. Now, unfortunately, this family had returned from Germany and they had returned to Bangalore, and from Bangalore, the mother and the daughter came to the parents' place at Chikali, and this is where this happened.
We are aware of the incident. Heart-wrenching is also, it's not a strong enough word for what is happening, because if a mother is forced to end her daughter's life and decides to jump off, it comes from a very, very, very acute depression. We do not know what the issue is. And we're not even looking at whether the family is well off or not well off. Those are side issues. It can happen in any family. But the point here is, ostensibly this family was very well settled.
Yeah.
Husband working in Germany, they're coming back, and they live comfortably in a very nice house in Chikali. So, but the point is, we've not really understood the reasons for the increasing rate of suicides in Goa. And we were just discussing in the morning, depression is a very silent killer. And the point is, in Goa, this is an issue that needs to be seen very seriously. You cannot just brush it off. And you need a very clinical and a proper professional approach. The health department, the social welfare department, the women and child development department, all need to look at depression as a very, very serious medical ailment. My point is, you have to treat depression as seriously as you would treat kidney problems in Kotigaon, for instance, or in Kankon. It is the same issue. But the point is here, unfortunately, it's not restricted to the weather or to the water or to geography. It can happen to anybody at any point of time. Our societies are also changing. But I think it's very important to do this, because one day after this, we saw a situation in Vasco where another man jumped off a 4-story building and died. Yeah. So the issue here is that then this is happening all the time, and as we speak, there may be so many people in Goa who are at the edge. Yeah. We also had this incident not too long ago, about 3 or 4 days ago, when the son of a very well-known actor, social rights activist, who hung himself in his hostel room in FTI Pune. Yeah. Now the point. So yes, these kind of incidents are flying in thick and fast, and there doesn't appear to be any ostensible reason why they would do this. Yeah. So it needs a very, very serious look.
Okay. Then in our last story for this week, we have the Herald dated August 9th, wherein there is a banner headline: "The Shah Commission report is a final benchmark for calculating Goa's massive illegal mining scam," admits the Mines Ministry in its reply in the Rajya Sabha to the MP Luisino Falero.
Yes, we as a newspaper decided to take this up very, very seriously, because there are a lot of substance in those replies. Yeah. One basic takeaway from this is that the Shah Commission report is still the benchmark for assessing the quantum of mining loss. And though there is a special investigative team which is working on it, at least the Mines Ministry says the SIT will be the final arbitrator of the quantum of loss and whatever happens. Now, this is a shift from what the mining barons and others have been trying to portray. This whole underplaying or downplaying of the Shah Commission report and the 35,000 crores has been a very strong narrative which has been going on for many years. Throughout. One is not saying that 35,000 crores is the final figure, but that is the figure that the Shah Commission arrived at due to some calculations. Yeah. You cannot dismiss it as a figment of Justice Shah's imagination. Yeah, that is where the problem is. That all along, the mining lobby has been dismissing it as a figment. Yeah. Now, 35,000 crores. Now, there are so many other calculations that have been made. One is the CAG has made a calculation.
Yeah.
Then the Committee of Chartered Accountants has made a calculation. Then of course there's a Shah Commission as well. Now, if you look at all this, then a proper final figure has to be arrived at.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at even the figure given by the CAG,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
CAG or Committee of Chartered Accountants?
This Committee of Chartered Accountants has said it is 352 crores.
Yes, 352 crores is the figure given by the Committee of Chartered Accountants.
Yeah. Of which only 80 crores has been recovered.
So it's pittance. 352. Actually, the figure which they have given in court is 3341 crores.
Yeah.
Which is a sum of the Committee of Chartered Accountants, CAG and a few others.
Yeah.
This is the amount that they have committed to court.
Yeah.
But very interestingly, that figure is not even being thought of. 3341 is, not even a drop in the ocean with, as far as 35,000 crores is concerned.
Yeah.
But it's something.
Yeah.
But to give notices of only 352 crores and with only a recovery of 80 crores, it's a joke.
Yeah. So basically, in terms of the cynicism which is around, do you think that there is we can expect an early closure? Can the people, can the mining affected, can the truck drivers and the barge owners look at an early closure to this issue?
Absolutely not. You forget mining starting for at least a year and a half at the bare minimum. The reason being that none of the mining leases have EC clearances. So you need to have getting an EC clearance for each lease takes a long time.
Yeah.
Secondly, the Mineral Development Corporation has been notified. Now the Goa Mineral Development Corporation is supposed to carry out all mining related activities.
Yeah.
Now for the GMDC to function, even if GMDC says, okay, these are the leases and we are going to auction these leases for the purpose of extraction.
Yeah.
To do that, the rules of business of the GMDC needs to be framed.
Yeah.
And if you look at the GMDC bill itself, there's a big section on the framing of rules.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this framing of rules has still not happened. Now when the framing of rules has not yet happened, how will the GMDC function? So you have the Goa Mineral Development Corporation, which is in effect it is non-functional because the rules have not been framed.
Rules are not framed.
So how do you do this? So the point that one is trying to make is that there are no EC clearances. There is no Goa Mineral Development Corporation which has framed its rules.
Yeah.
So on what basis are you going to start mining? That's a big question that nobody is asking. So if you are serious about it, you expedite all this and see that Goa is ready in the next 5 to 6 months to do it.
Okay. So on that note, we conclude the week that was, the week that started from 3rd August to 9th August. We hope that you enjoyed watching and catching up with the news of the past week. Keep watching Herald TV.